Pinot Noir is one of the most beloved red wine grapes on the planet, hailing from France, especially Burgundy. It's become famous all around the world for its haunting aromas and flavors. I've done tons of videos about Pinot Noir on the channel, so I won't go into facts and figures. All I'll tell you is when Pinot Noir hooks you as a wine lover, it's really hard. It just doesn't let you go. It's a fickle mistress indeed. Difficult grape, that's why a lot of vignerons around the world, winemakers, strive to make great Pinot Noir, especially they try to make great Burgundy, and it's a heartbreaking grape. Sometimes you get these immense highs, and then sometimes you get these real low lows. My goodness, it's almost like being in a relationship. Us wine geeks, us wine nerds love it for its complexity, but when you give it to more casual drinkers, they really like it. It's fruity, it's got soft tannins, there is complexity there, although Burgundies can be quite tannic at times. I have 4 grape varieties from all over the world that can resemble Pinot Noir. I had all these available, so I said, okay, let's blind taste them, see if we could get anything close to Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir and similar grapes that give off nice aromatic profiles. I have my Riedel Pinot Noir Performance Glass, big bold. So I have a link in the description box if you want to check it out. With Pinot Noir, I'm looking for more red fruit flavors, usually more red raspberry, sometimes sour cherry, fall leaves, sometimes white pepper notes. Those are things that really stand out to me. Usually pretty silky mouthfeel, so we'll see how these wines compare. Oddly enough, as prices of Burgundy and other Pinot Noirs from around the world continue to rise, in this tasting, oddly enough, Pinot Noir is the cheapest one. It's just what I had available. Let's start with wine 1. This is either Pinot Noir or a dead ringer for Pinot Noir. So, it's got the raspberry, kind of a Cool Whip flavor. Those of you who don't know, Cool Whip is like an industrialized American version of whipped cream. There's some earthy, brushy notes, you know, real red fruit, just a real pretty wine. A little bit floral. Sometimes nice Pinot Noirs can have a touch of florality to them. Pinot Noirs have bright acidity. Man, I Corvin these and had somebody mix them up for me, but I think one is Pinot Noir, definitely. And you know what? A very good one at that. That's a heck of a start. Let's go into wine 2. 2, very interesting. 2, I feel like number 1's more of a New World Pinot Noir play. I know that term's becoming outdated. Number 2, I feel like could be Pinot Noir, like in a blind tasting. I got the raspberry. I have a little strawberry notes. The earthiness is like undeniably pretty. Very earthy. I mean, it's just a really pretty wine. This is for, I feel like 1 is more New Worldy in style. This is definitely more European in style. That dirtiness. Here's the thing. I think 1 is more food friendly. It's bright. It's fruity. Number 2, the earthiness takes over on the palate. The tannins are a little bit grippier for those that like dirt earthiness in their glass. It's got character, though, I have to say. Number 2 is very good. 1's more of a crowd pleaser. Let's move on to 3. Okay, 3 has some cedar, sour cherry, raspberry notes. Dried cranberry comes out. This has got a lot of character, even a leather component to it. A little bit This to me, I do have a wine in here from a region that collectors of Burgundy are flocking to. I think that this might be it. Just a really pretty wine. Get a hint of cedar, a hint of wood, but the wood doesn't stand out. This has big time tannins. You really feel the astringency on your palate. Really grips. It's not as fruity as wine number 1, but this is pretty serious, complex wine. Again, you're going to want the tannins with this wine. That's the only thing. It's a good wine. Let's move on to 4. Doing this tasting bright and early, and I'm excited. Okay, this one has a little more cut, looks like a younger wine. Again, this is sour cherry, red raspberry flavors. Just like a touch of stemminess. It's not necessarily earthy fall leaves like maybe the first 3 so far, but like these fresh green twigs stemminess type notes. Really, really pretty. Violets. Complex wine, by the way. This has this, the fruit turns into more dark cherry on the back end. Tannins are moderate, so it is kind of Pinot Noir-esque. It's more medium bodied. It is pretty silky on the palate. This reminds me, this has like this hint of concreteness that I associate with wines that are aged in cement or amphora. That's a heck of a wine. Let's move on to 5. That really does remind me of wines that are aged in amphora. It has like this texture to it, this concreteness. It's just good. Wine number 5. Good set of wines here. Again, I had some of these laying around. What happens a lot of times is I've gotten a lot of samples and I have planned videos and I put everything out, but sometimes I have extra wines, I put them together and I'm like, man, could I make a theme out of some of these wines I have extra? That's the impetus behind this video, and so far I'm glad I did it because the wines are awesome. Okay, wine. This does act like a Pinot Noir. This is the one I think is Pinot Noir. 2 and 5 I think also could be dead ringers for Pinot Noir. Raspberry notes, fall leaves, cherry. It's just a pretty wine. I'm telling you, 5, could be 5 is the most dead ringer out of Pinot Noir. The silky mouthfeel, the soft tannins. I'm actually really excited to see what it is. 5 is a good wine. Maybe doesn't have the popping fruit that wine 1 has, but I think in a blind tasting, a lot of people might think this is Pinot Noir. I want to let you know that I've launched channel memberships. If you want to hang out with me, other like-minded wine people, go ahead and click the join button. Under the different tiers, the Grand Reserve tier especially, I'm doing a monthly hangout tasting. That way you can come up on screen, share your wines and thoughts with me. I've also launched a live video podcast. Members in that Grand Reserve tier can call in like a live radio show and ask the guest a question. Thanks a lot. It really supports the work here. Here we go. I think there's one dead ringer for Pinot Noir here. We'll go in descending to ascending order of scores like always. Number 2, red raspberry, earth strawberry. I did feel like it was more of a European-esque Pinot Noir play, like people could think that it's Pinot Noir. The tannins are only thing at the end that bite a little bit. I thought it was still very, very, very good wine. I gave it 90 plus points. It definitely had that character to go above the 89 point threshold. I thought it was lovely. I don't think it's Pinot Noir. 90 plus points. What if it is Pinot Noir? Let's see. Okay. Wow. I am surprised. This is the Cantine Olivella Vesuvio Rosso 2022. This comes in at 40 bucks. This is 100% Pietro Rosso from Campania in Italy. This is grown on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. I was just there. This is the wine I think this is actually aged in amphora, 11.5 alcohol. I think in Europe it's like 25 euros. I think that is a gorgeous wine, 90 plus points. I just threw that in. Pietro Rosso sometimes can be a little bit darker than Pinot Noir, but I think when it's made in lighter styles like this one, it can be exceptional. You see producers making it more of as a varietal wine, and you can see why. There's a lot of potential here. And that was very, very Pinot Noir-esque, 90 plus points. Pietro Rosso is the grape behind the wine Lacrima Christi from Mount Vesuvius, a wine that can be either white or red, and I think it has a lot more potential. It should be a lot better than it is. I remember the first time I went to Sorrento. That was when I was living in Singapore. I went to Sorrento on a holiday, sitting there on the coast drinking a bottle of Lacrima Christi that was very inexpensive, but I thought it was like the best wine ever at the time. Shows how much environment can play a role. I've got 2 tied for 92 points. Wines number 4 and 5. Wine 4, I felt like was aged in concrete. It had just kind of that feel, that texture to it. It had, at first I said the sour cherry that moved into dark cherry flavors. It was a real complex wine. I gave it 92 points. I thought it was an outstanding wine. Again, I thought it was aged in concrete or amphora, but one was. Maybe this one was too. I don't know. 92 points. I don't think it was a dead ringer for Pinot Noir, but I thought it was a very good wine. This is an exotic wine. The grape Areni from Armenia. This is the Khachen Areni from Armenia, 2022. This comes in at 29 bucks approximately in Armenia. I know that they're trying to find importers. I thought that was exceptional. Exceptional one. I got to see if this is, I got the text sheet here. Only aged in stainless steel tanks. 29 bucks. I think that's a heck of a value. That was a very good wine. Very good wine. Areni is one of my favorite grapes from Armenia, which has a long history of winemaking. This is a brand new producer, but they source grapes from similar vineyards as Zora, and Zora is probably the most well-known, the most famous winery coming out of Armenia. Just outstanding wines. This is a grape to keep your eye on. Wine 5. The last one I tasted, fall leaves, cherry raspberry. I definitely thought it was a Pinot Noir play. I think in blind tastings, a lot of people might think it's Pinot Noir. I gave it 92 points. I thought it was very, very good. like the Armenian wine. These are some good wines. I'm excited how things are showing here. A grape that I scream about can be like Burgundy, can be like Pinot Noir. This is Garnacha, also known as Grenache. In France, this is the Vina Alzania Gardacho Garnacha 2021. This comes in at 27 bucks. I really think the Garnacha from Navarra can just be exceptional, can be really light, true Garnacha, light in color, but it still has those earthy tones, and they're really affordable. A lot of old vines there too. I think this is an exceptional one. But anyways, the wine brand name is Gardacho Garnacha, 27 bucks. Cool label. I think that is a wine that also, these last two punched way above their price point, coming in the $20 range to get that type of quality. I thought it was excellent, excellent, excellent wine. The last two standing, number 3, 92 plus points. I think this is the region where a lot of fans of Burgundy Pinot Noir are flocking to because of the similarities, the emphasis on terroir. They can be maybe sometimes Burgundian with a little more tannin. That's what I think this is. Let's see, I stuck one in here. The most expensive wine in the bunch. This is the Gigi Rosso Barolo Bricco San Pietro, so the Hill of St. Peter, 2019, 55 bucks. So this is a single vineyard Barolo, comes from the grape Nebbiolo. Nebbiolo can have similar haunting flavors, especially when you get the floral components in. They're collectible, they're tannic, they're really unique wines. If you haven't had Barolo or Nebbiolo before, this is the most expensive, but it still showed well. 92 plus points. You gotta want the tannins. I was drinking with collectors one time and we were doing a Barolo tasting, and I loved how one of them said, man, to like Barolo, you really gotta want the tannins, which is not gonna be for everybody. These last two wines, number 4 and 5, the Areni and the Garnacha, a little bit softer. This is for a particular palate. I thought it was very good. I do think Nebbiolo just can reach insanely great heights, although in general, I think I prefer Sangiovese for Italian wines because of its approachability young. Number 1, I guess there is no substitute for Pinot Noir, and I gave this a whopping 93 points. I thought it was exceptional wine. I think it's Pinot Noir. And the last one standing is Pinot Noir. This is the Sean Miner Signature Series from Sonoma Coast 2022. This comes in at 26 bucks. I tasted this when I shot my wine tasting video with a wine director at a local wine shop. He showed me this wine. Sean Miner reached out to me, wanted to send me some samples. I said, heck, why not? It showed equally well blind. My goodness, for California Pinot Noir to come in at 26 bucks to still be like Pinot Noir and not beefed up, that's basically unheard of. So tell me, what grapes do you think are alternatives to Pinot Noir that you might enjoy? Or do you have any favorite Pinot Noir under the radar producers that are still pretty affordable? Like the Sean Miner, I'd love to hear. Drop it in the comments below.